911. It's a number dialed over 240 million times each year. In all cases, these calls are answered by trained professionals, and many are certified NENA ENPs. Let's talk to one of these professionals, unedited and completely off the cuff.
Are you positive he's breathing?
No.
Okay, and he's blue?
Yeah.
Okay, then there's a good chance he's not breathing. Is there somebody else there that can do CPR?
Oh my God.
911, what's your emergency?
NENA, the National Emergency Number Association, and the NANCI-approved Standards Development Organization, has created the Emergency Number Professional Accreditation, specifically for public safety professionals. ENP certification establishes the benchmark for performance, signifying a broad-based competence in the public safety field. Successful certification completion demonstrates an individual's mastery of the knowledge base requirements for an emergency management position. So join me as we talk to yet another new ENP, unedited and completely off the cuff. Hey, it's Fletch. Welcome to another episode of Off the Cuff, True Confessions of an ENP. Today we're talking to Laura Clay, brand new ENP from Gwinnett County, who's a communications officer. Welcome to the podcast and congratulations on your brand new ENP.
Thank you. Hi.
Is it all nice and shiny and smell new?
It is. We just got the pins the other day. It's so pretty.
Oh, you got your box. That's what I was going to ask you. Is that the coolest gift or what?
Yes. I didn't expect it to be in a nice, pretty box like that.
Yeah. I mean, they spent, I always tell everybody, they spent like 6 months to a year designing that box, figuring out the contents and making it all pretty. I wanted to put exploding confetti in there, but they wouldn't take that idea.
I think that would put a nice twist on it.
I think so too. So you're talking, you and I have the same sense of humor, which is not very common. Most people go, that guy is really weird. So I'm not sure where this podcast is going to go, but it should be interesting. So how long have you been in public safety? What's been your journey so far?
So I started with a degree in justice studies, crime and criminal justice. When I graduated, I didn't know if I wanted to be a law enforcement officer or law school or anything like that. So I ended up just kind of serving tables for an extra 6 months. I also accidentally graduated a year early and didn't really have any preparation or anything like that. So kind of got put on the hot seat really quickly and ended up in 911, which I loved. I didn't see that future for me, but I absolutely love it. And yeah, I worked in Virginia for about 4 years and then ended up down in Georgia for the last year and a half.
No, that's cool. And so Georgia doesn't do background checks, I guess?
They do.
But you still got the job. You still got the job. That's cool.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, that's fantastic. So, I mean, when did you realize you first really got hung up on this position? You said, this is for me.
Yeah. It was right after I got released from phones training, because everybody knows training is not fun. It's never fun. No matter how good of a student you are, it's just not fun. So as soon as I was alone and I was becoming more confident in my own ability. So it was probably a couple weeks after phones training, when you're on your own and you're figuring things out and you finally get that mom voice, is what I like to call it, of, I need you to stop talking to her and talk to me now. Like, and you finally figure out how you're going to be on the phone.
Do you remember your first call by yourself when you're out on your own?
I don't remember my very first call, but I do remember we had one of my first calls on my first day. And this was one of the first times I was like, we're not doing this. We had a very large structure fire in an apartment complex, and firefighters had gone in to try and get an animal out that had been in there. And I had other parents calling because it was in a college town. And they were like, well, my son has, this property in there that's so important, and we need to go back in for the property. And I was like, we're not going to do that. And, they were using the argument, well, you went in for the dog. It was like on a volunteer basis too. Like the firefighters went in voluntarily to try and find the dog that we could hear barking. But that was on my very first day release. And I was very quickly like, putting my foot down. Like, no, ma'am, we're not. I feel like had I been in training, I would have referred to my training officer to kind of do like I don't want to say the yelling, but the saying no.
Right, right.
I had to do it myself that time. So I do remember that call of my first day because I was like, no, we're not going in for this property. No.
Wow. Did you ever get to the position where the trauma really got you and you needed to take a break? Have you gotten into that point yet?
I wouldn't say. I'm more of the type of person that when trauma hits, I like to keep working through it. Like, I don't like to see the end of it. I like to see the end of it. I mean to say, like, I don't want to leave halfway through. I want to be there, see it through. So I've definitely had some traumatic things happen. We've had line of duty deaths and everything like that when I've been working, but for me, it kind of spurs me on and makes me want to get better at my job, which is a reason I moved, down to Georgia, why I did my ENP and all of that stuff. Is just that I want to feel like I'm doing the absolute most for my callers and that I am confident that I am doing the most. So I'm constantly going to trainings and everything like that, trying to prepare for the worst. And so, when you're prepared for the worst, I feel like you don't immediately have that trauma response. It might build up and hit later, but it's not immediate for me.
When did you think about getting your ENP, or what drove you to that decision?
Yeah, so I had never heard about it for about the first 3 years of working there. It's just not something I knew even existed.
You could have called me. I would have told you all about it. But no, you didn't. That's all right.
Should have gone to conferences or something. Now I love them. At the time, I was like, why would people go to those? They're amazing. That's why. But no, so once I learned about it, I immediately was like, okay, this is something I want to do. But I didn't know if I could do it because when I learned about it, I was only maybe 3 years in. So, you have to have a certain amount of experience and all the points and everything. And I was like, I am a little young to start this. And, a lot of agencies don't really give extra money for it or anything like that. They might pay for the training, but it's like in the long term, what really is this going to get me at this agency? Or, you got to think about it because it does cost money and a lot of time. But like I said, I want to be prepared. I want to be confident. So ENP was definitely the next step for me. And I'm so glad I did it.
Did you have to pay for it or did your agency?
I paid for it myself. I bet my agency would have paid for it, but I started it right when I moved to a new agency and I didn't feel right being like, hi, I've been here for a month. Can you pay for this? So I went through the process myself. I'm sure they would have been helpful, but it didn't feel right to me to do it.
It's funny. I've had a lot of ENP say, I paid for it myself. It's for my own betterment. And I was able to pay for it. And you know what? Even if my agency had funding, let that go to somebody who can't pay for it themselves and really needs it. You might find that one superstar out there that makes a difference. So that's pretty cool that you did that. That means it's important to you. And that's important to everybody, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something I'm happy I did.
What was your biggest revolution in when you started taking your training? What is there anything that really shocked you? That
This
oh my God!
And I have no idea how I went so long without understanding this. And I actually texted my friend as soon as I learned it, and I was like, "Did you know this?" And she's been in it longer than I have, and she was like, "No, I had no idea." And it's the Northern 911 in Entrado, like how the calls end up there. I had no idea. I just thought these people were calling like a national 911 number and somehow ended up there. I had no idea they were like our, misfit toys that can't fit into anywhere.
That's good. The misfit toy line. Yeah.
That's Tracy Eldridge. I can't take that one. It's the island of misfit toys where all the people go.
That is so Tracy Eldridge. Yes. I mean, who by the way, a total waste of time going to her sessions, but
don't learn anything.
She's a sister to me. I love Tracy. Tracy takes really complex concepts and comes up with the most ridiculous explanations for them. And I'm like, I'm a technical person. I'm like, oh my God, where did you come up with that? But yeah, I can see where that totally makes sense now. Yeah, and I can see why people now understand that.
Exactly. I found Tracy late because I didn't realize that these like a lot of the online study groups are free. So I was like, well, I can't afford that. I got to do it myself. So I didn't find Tracy's classes until later in all my training. So I went through there, and at this point, everybody in my family and my friends knew I was studying for it. So I messaged them all. I was like, this woman is amazing. She has these things called Tracyisms, and they speak to my soul. She gets me. She gets how I understand these things. But no, finding her training was a game changer for me. That finally is what helped a lot of things click and understand it better.
Yeah, and for the other training sessions that are out there, you've got Mission Critical that does a great job. They've got like super deep experts, and they'll really get into the nuts and bolts of things, which is great if you've got a good understanding. I talk to a lot of people, especially dispatchers, who aren't always exposed to the technology side. They'll sit down and go through Tracy's class, understand the parts of the machine, and then they'll sit and take the Mission Critical
That's
training.
my next step, is to sit and take another one so I can better understand it, because it's the same thing for me. I had a broad understanding of everything, but even now, even with passing the ENP, there are still things where I might be able to flag it and be like, oh, that's what's going on here, but I don't know how to fix it. And I'm hoping just, more training, more experience will help me kind of get the more rounded aspect of the ENP. But
no, that's so cool, Laura. I mean, I can see. I mean, you're still young in your career, right? 6 years is a lot, but you're still you're just coming to age now, and for you to be that dedicated to personally want to excel, let me tell you, that comes out on interviews. You're going to be an incredible supervisor, executive director. You're going to be running a PSAP in 10 years.
I hope so.
Or less. So what do you want to do with your career? Where do you want to go?
I really love training and quality assurance, which I know sounds boring, but I just think a lot of quality assurance right now is we're only doing half of it, and we're not kind of getting the full spectrum of this is going wrong because of this, let's fix this, instead of just telling them they're doing it wrong. And I just love the idea of finding the problems and fixing the problems and making it more streamlined and better for our call takers, because we are unfortunately in a place where we are so short-staffed in a lot of agencies. And instead of streamlining in ways where we're kind of diminishing our effectiveness, let's streamline it in different ways where we can make our call takers better and we can make the job easier for them in the little ways, instead of again, giving us scripts to say and all that stuff. Instead of doing that, let's fix the actual problems.
Yeah, QA is not like the 911 narc, right? I'm not looking to find Bob and figure out how I can penalize Bob.
Exactly.
I'm looking to say where Bob could have done something better, and let's make everybody else aware of that. Yeah. So if you ever run into that, hey, here's a great way of handling a situation.
Why has Bob
improved it for everybody?
10 times. What's wrong with this address that it keeps going in wrong? Something like that. And then on top of that, I think QA is very one-sided in the fact that it only looks at the 911 agency, and then you have your police agency, and then you have your fire agency. When we flow together. We need somebody who's kind of over top of all of them, checks and balances, and helping the entire agency move forward and not just one aspect of it.
Yeah. So you guys are probably pretty busy. How big is your normal shift in Gwinnett County?
Gwinnett County has over 1 million people in it, so it is huge. We're bigger than I think 3 states at this point, and in population wise. For our shift, ideally, we have, I want to say, at least 12 to 15 call takers, and then we have 6 radios.
Okay.
Right now, we do have a few of our radio. We have different precincts, and we have a few of the precincts patched right now to try and help with staffing. But if we have enough staffing, we would unpatch those, and then we would have 8. Well, we would have 8 PD radios and then 2 people on our fire radio.
Wow. Okay. So you could have 25, 30 people on a shift.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to manage, and a lot of calls coming in. Gwinnett County is like that's like exploding population wise and technology wise. I keep hearing more and more things that refer to Gwinnett County.
Yeah, we
And
are huge, for sure.
yeah, that's cool. Why did you pick that area to move to?
So I wanted, like I said, before I lived in Virginia, and we had a large college town, but surrounding the college town was very, very rural. We were right up against the West Virginia state line, so we were very rural, besides our college. So we had high priority calls. We had a lot of call volume, but it wasn't like I want to move up and I want to be really good at this job. So I wanted experience, and I was like, you know what? Let me move to a city, but I can't drive in the city. So I went to a city outside a city. Can't go immediately into Atlanta, so I went just a little outside Atlanta.
So did you have the job before you moved, or did you move and then look for a job?
I had the job before I moved.
Wow. Okay. So did you have to go down to interview? I mean, because onboarding is such a long process.
Yeah, I went down. It was hard because we were so short-staffed still in Virginia. So I was working all this overtime, lots and lots of overtime. And then I would have to make it work to where we worked 12-hour shifts. So on the Wednesday, Thursday of my off week, I would drive down after I get off at 7 p.m., drive through the night, sleep at a hotel. I'd get to Georgia around like 4 a.m., sleep at a hotel for a couple hours. And then that next day I would do all my appointments, sleep at the hotel again, and then drive back on Thursday to be there for my Friday weekends.
What do you work? You work 12-hour shifts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, when I was working, we worked 12s, and our shift was Sunday to Wednesday or Sunday to Tuesday, and Wednesday was the swing day, 3 on, 4 off, 4 on, 3 off, and then we do 2 weeks of days, 2 weeks of nights. I love that because you come off of day shift on a short week, and you have 4 days off, and you don't have to be back till 6 p.m. Sunday night. It was like a week vacation. You could go do stuff.
It is nice, but I don't know if I'd be able to switch every 2 weeks from days to nights. That'd be hard.
It really is not that hard. Again, I was in a small single seat center. We did 3 towns. Total population between all 3 was probably less than 20,000. We weren't super, super busy. So Sunday night, once your first night back, okay, 6 o'clock to 10, 11 o'clock, you had a few little things, get everybody to bed. 11:30 on Sunday night, that's it. Yeah. The lights were out, and it was just relaxed time. Yeah. It was not too bad. But again, every place is a little bit different. So what made you get into 911?
So,
I mean, that's an odd career to pick, isn't it?
Yeah. It was already kind of on my radar because my grandfather was a director for a 911 center way back when. So it was on my radar, but it wasn't anything that was ever taught in school. It's not at a career fair. And
some places do. So Florida is very proactive with that, actually.
Yes, I definitely think that should make it a career. People see it as like a call center, and we need to make it a long-term career that people can actually look forward to when they're in high school and thinking about it. But with a criminal justice major, you're kind of limited in what you can do. And I was gung-ho on law school and really thought that's what I was going to do. And then law school is expensive, and they don't let you have a job your first year. So it's not attainable for a lot of people who especially are kind of paying their own way. So it was immediately out for me. And then your next option is law enforcement. And I'm not a law enforcement girl. I could try my hardest, but it's just not the right fit for me. So I ended up I saw a bus ad for 911, and I was like, well, let me apply there and see, what I can do before I find out what I really want to do. And then again, as soon as I finished my call taking training, I was like, okay, this is it. I found it.
No, that's so cool. That's so cool. So are you active in your local 911 community?
Not so much in Georgia. More so because I just got into within the last 2.5 years is when I really got into NENA and APCO and everything like that. So in Georgia, I just don't know anybody right now. I've gone to a few conferences and been in a lot of trainings and stuff, but I want to be more active. I do want to join, like a committee in NENA and help out with all that stuff, but I wanted to kind of educate myself first before I went in there blind. So now is the time I'm going to start doing all of that stuff.
Well, there's a lot of committee work that could be done out there. They're always looking for volunteers. That's a great way to get involved because you don't even have to be a NENA member to join a work group committee. And, if you find, so what do you think is a little passion area for you where you want to actually learn stuff and contribute?
Yeah.
Because work groups are good for that too.
I have an obsession with maps and address verification.
Oh gosh.
It's
we don't do any of that kind of work.
It's kind of a joke where I work now that I just always have the GIS, like the actual county GIS website up because I'm just looking for problems. But I want to do my GIS certificate as well at some point, but not right now. But yeah, so I love maps. I love address verification. I love, like I said, streamlining. Just what are the little things that we can fix and change to make life better for our operators and make it, I don't want to say easier, but just better in general.
So one person to put on your radar, write this down. His name is Brooks Shannon. He works for Esri now, used to work for NENA, been in the industry a gazillion years. He is the GIS guru. I will personally introduce you to him and hook you two up. If you love GIS, you got to be his friend. He is absolutely a thought leader in that space, and he will turn you on to all kinds of cool GIS industries. I'm sorry, what was that?
There's just so many things you can do with GIS, and I feel like a lot of agencies aren't capitalizing on that, and I love it.
GIS is the core of everything. It's the keeper of everything that's relevant almost.
Especially with Next Gen 911 coming up, it's even more important to make sure everything's accurate in there, and just I love it.
Oh, Brooks is gonna love you. Brooks is gonna love you. Interesting. Brooks was an industry leader for years. I'm going to say I've known him for more than a decade, probably close to 15 years. I'm going through my list and I get, last year I got the new list of new ENPs and I see Brooks' name on the list. I'm like, oh, he must have just recertified. So I called him up and I'm like, oh, you want to do a podcast because you just recertified? He goes, no, I just got my ENP. Like, you just got your ENP? He's like, yeah. He goes, believe it or not, I never needed it, but
when you're that good at your job, I mean,
there was, and again, he was the GIS guy, but it wasn't like he had a broad knowledge. He knew a lot about everything. It wasn't hard for him to pass the test, but he even learned stuff that he didn't know. And I'm like, that's just amazing. So you guys can go celebrate your new EMP. So no, that's fantastic. So what advice do you have? I always ask everybody this. What advice do you have to a new EMP who's looking, wondering, should they, if they, can they? What do you have for them?
You always should. What's wrong with having extra knowledge? Nothing. So especially if your agency's paying for it, take it. And then from there, I say, take your time. I thought I was going to get this book and take the next test. I'm a quick learner. I memorize a lot. So I was like, I'll be fine. Read the book, do some studying. I'll be good. But I realized I was more so memorizing and not learning. So I pushed it back and I just kept pushing it back. I pushed it back. I was supposed to take it December and I ended up taking it in July because I was like, I want to understand this stuff. I don't want to come out of it just with letters after my name. I want to come out of it with letters that I can back up with knowledge. So take your time, use Tracy's classes, use the other classes you can find, take more than one, just take your time and learn everything. And I read the entire book. The book is hard. It doesn't explain a lot of things very well. So read the entire book. I created my own flashcards and my own notes. And then months later, I found Tracy, started taking hers, updated my notes. And then went back to my flashcards, and I just started applying it in real life as well to the center, which I'm sure was annoying for some people because I would just ask questions and why do you need to know this right now? And it's like, what's our ESN number? I need to know. Like, but just things like that, like just start really applying it to your center, to your life, and learn it and internalize it. Don't just memorize it. But
Okay, quick pop question. What does an ECRF do?
ECRF, that's
Yeah.
the emergency routing function, which is, that's Next Gen 911.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's our, let's get the location and send it off. Get ready to route it.
Cool. Yeah.
It's a pop question. I don't like that.
Okay, come on. You know, it's this stuff is happening. Where are you guys with Next Gen? Is it on the roadmap?
It's on the roadmap. Last time we met with our chief and everything, the ESI net was in the works and on our, I guess, our 5-year plan. I wouldn't say it was within the next year, but it's coming. It's happening.
Nice. So, you know, it's interesting. For Next Gen to really work, you have to have the data being originated somewhere. And not a lot of people are looking at that, by the way. Then you got to have the network that supports it. And then you have the call center that takes it. They're looking at the middle piece and the call centers. But, you know, I don't want to buy a 50-inch high-def TV and then watch black and white reruns on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the big improvement has got to come, to where Next Gen will actually work with something and have something to work with. Because there's a lot of data that's out there. And you've got some of it being fed through with Rapid SOS and other things, you know, that are now collecting video from endpoints and filtering that through. So it'll be interesting to see how the network evolves to where it's really what the end state needs to be.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those things that changes amongst every single agency. It depends what your agency wants to put into it and what they want to get out of it. And there are definitely going to be some agencies that are just bare minimum. We want this. We want, you know, address verification of where the caller's at. Then there's others who are going to be amazing centers to work at, because you're going to have all this technology and all of this information that you can use and utilize to help your callers and your responders. But yeah, it's definitely something that's so fluid, and it's gonna be interesting to see which agencies choose to kind of make it what it can be. And
it'll also be interesting to see what agency is progressive enough to where Laura Clay is going to want to go work for them.
Hey,
I can see you as a person that's going to like, look, you guys just aren't getting it. I'm going over here where I can do some good.
I mean, it is a good point, though, where it's like, there's some agencies still not using Rapid SOS. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah.
And there's two parts of me. One that wants to go work there and be like, here's Rapid SOS. Here's what I can do and teach them. And there's another part where it's like, why aren't they? What's going wrong in that center that they're choosing not to use these tools? So there's definitely two sides. I want to go teach Rapid SOS, but at the same time, it's like, I'm scared why they're not using it.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, and that number is getting smaller and smaller. Yes. I think they're probably, last I heard, 97, 98% out there, and that's great. And again, they've got a free version, they've got advanced paid versions as well. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, they're just trying to sell their paid application. Well, yeah, they're a business.
Yeah.
So you're gonna not do the free?
Take advantage of what's free, but recognize what you could have if you spent a little more money.
Yeah, whatever. The free is good, right?
Yeah, you know, love free.
And free is free. Yeah, I don't get it either. It's like, you know, this stuff, these resources are out there. Mm-hmm. You know, Prepared is another one that provides the client video stuff. Why wouldn't you do that stuff if it's available?
Yeah. Well, I haven't worked with a center that's used it yet, but I like to look into it. I'm weird. So I'm Googling these companies and I'm watching their like training videos and stuff. And I'm like, man, I wish we had that. Or just, it's new technology. So it's going to take a while for it to roll out. And a lot of places don't necessarily have like the you could say, the bandwidth to get it right now. We still are on a lot of old technology.
Well, people are afraid of what they haven't seen. Oh, I don't want to. My call takers, they don't want to see all this trauma.
Yeah, it's a liability too. What if that call taker doesn't see a gun, or nobody said it, so what liability do they have to look into the background and everything like that? It's new. We need policies and everything on how exactly we're going to handle it, but
sure. But there are protections that can be implemented as well, right?
Exactly.
There's always a problem with the first adopters. Oh, voice over IP telephony, it fails sometimes. Yeah, it does. But guess what? Today, I trust a VoIP network better than I trust an analog network because nobody's taking care of the analog network. And it's going down. And they don't know when that's down.
Exactly.
A digital network, it's down and you can route around it most of the time. And if you can't, somebody didn't do their job somewhere. But if everybody does, it all works. I'm keeping my eye on you. You've got a great, wow. You're like a young female Fletcher.
Yes.
Challenging, investigating, a little sassy.
We love a little sass. You got to add it to the pile.
You'd be fun to hang out with. We would probably get into a lot of trouble. Well, that's great. Well, listen, thanks so much for sitting down. This has really been interesting. This has been a fantastic group of ENPs that came through this last one. I think there's like 57 new ENPs that came through. But still, there are only about 1,800 out of 22,000 NENA members.
Yeah.
So you're part of a very, very tiny segment of professionals. So you've got my respect.
Thank you. Got to raise that number up. Everybody go take your ENP.
So now that's part of your job now. Now that you're an ENP, you got to go recruit people.
Exactly.
Who are you going to target?
I've already sent my notes off to multiple people. I'm working on it.
Great. That's what happens. That's the way to do it.
Because again, I know that book is hard to read. So I just want to make it easy for people to learn. There's nothing wrong with learning. Excellent.
Well, fantastic. Well, listen, Laura, thank you very much. Best of luck with your career. And I'm serious. I'm keeping an eye on you because you're going to be hell on wheels. I can see it right now. There's a fire in the belly there. And, you're the kind of people that we need to cultivate in this industry. Well, anytime you need anything, you give me a call.
All right.
You got a big brother over here. Well, have a great day, and thanks again for sitting down with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I love talking about 911, so.
Great. Well, that wraps up another episode of Off the Cuff, True Confessions of an ENP. I'm Mark Fletcher, ENP, Northeast Regional Director for NENA, the National Emergency Number Association. Off the Cuff is produced by 911 Inform, providing next-generation 911 emergency services solutions for enterprises today, and making every second count when it matters most. Be sure to visit them at 911inform.com or call at 1-833-333-1911. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Check out my profiles on Facebook and LinkedIn, and you can download all my videos and podcasts at Fletch.tv. Thanks for watching, and if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do. Stay safe and take care.